Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. We are continuing breaking down the affidavit. Truth is, there's 19 pages in that affidavit. Yes, the very first video, I did share the whole affidavit. Now I want to break it down into little pieces to make it a little easier for you to follow. It doesn't matter what channel you're watching this on, when you're following 19 pages, it's easy to get lost. And so I'm breaking it down into little pieces for you. Let's go ahead and dive into what we know now. Today we're discussing the DNA that was found at the crime scene. Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger, he is said to have been smiling during his brief court appearance today. And truth is, I don't know how much I would even really call it a smile. It was more like really quick, like, let's get it over with. But he didn't really look like he was smiling. But some are reporting that he kind of had that quick little smile. But, you know, it's easy to catch him with a little smile. You didn't see any teeth, but it was like, it wasn't even a second. I don't even know if it was a tenth of a second. And so the suspect, he is said to have been smiling during a brief court appearance. But I don't know that I agree with referring to it as a smile, because then it was even made as the smiley killer or whatever. But you know how that could be a stretch to get you to click, right? And so this came as police and prosecutors revealed their bombshell case against him. And as I dove into the affidavit this morning, there was some wow moments, including how his DNA was found on a knife sheath at the scene. A knife sheath is what you put your knife in as a holder. And so Kohberger, he was denied bail today during a brief court appearance in Moscow shortly after an affidavit detailing prosecutors' case against him was shared online. Kohberger, he spent most of the 10-minute hearing looking directly at Judge Megan Marshall. This is her on your screen as she read him his rights and the 5 counts and answered yes when asked if he understood each account. At one point, which is what I shared with you, Kohberger looked like he was, smiling a little at his attorney, Ann Taylor. It is unclear what prompted the grin, but when I saw the video, it looked like he came in, looked at her and said, "That's my way of saying hello. I can't do much outside of that." It was so brief. So it is unclear what prompted it, but I just think that was his way of saying hello. This comes 6 days after he excuse me. But this comes 6 days after his famous arrest. Wow, right? And so it was December 30th when he was finally caught, which would be a week tomorrow. And Kohberger, he remained impassive throughout, but briefly began rocking back and forth as the judge told him he was facing the death pen. He will return to court on January 12th, which is next Thursday, for a status hearing. And Friday's papers include details on how Kohberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath close to the bodies of Maddie Mogen and Kaylee Gonsalves, which is where he is said to have started first. We don't really know. But the documents, the affidavit, also detailed how a surviving roommate, Dylan Mortensen, came face to face with a masked man believed to be Kohberger in the hallway of their shared home around the time of the killings, shortly after 4 a.m. on November 13th. And Mortensen heard what she believed to be her roommate's cries, left her room and saw a man in a black mask with bushy eyebrows. She froze with fear and watched as he walked past, then waited 6 hours before calling the cops. We don't know much on that. Let's be very clear. The affidavit does not talk about why there's such a gap from the time she saw this perp to when the phone call was made. We don't know. Was she the one that was passed out and someone came, saw her, then picked up the phone and called 911 for an unconscious person? That's my guess as to, like, I cannot understand any other reason why that phone call to 911 wasn't made for many hours later. If there is something behind this, I'm sure we will find out. But until then, I personally believe she's the person that was found unconscious. And that's when they picked up the phone and called the cops. So we don't know why it was almost 6 hours before calling the cops. I'm going to just say right now, I don't think she has anything at all to do with this. Let's make that very clear. I personally think she's the one that was passed out that they called about. Literally, it has to be. That's the only thing that makes sense. And further details on Kohberger's alleged stalking of his victims was shared. His phone had been found in the vicinity of their Moscow home 12 times before the November murders. And so this is extremely heartbreaking. But we find out that this sheath, the knife sheath, literally was found with the roommates. I think that is a big piece of evidence. This is one of the most damning piece of evidence, is the fact that a DNA sample taken from Kohberger's family's home in Pennsylvania matched the DNA that was found on the snap button enclosure of a knife sheath found in the murder scene. And as we know, they have been searching for a K-bar knife for a long time, right? And so then we have that this is a K-bar sheath knife. This is literally it. With USMC, United States Marine Corps, and K-bar on it, the insignia that's stitched on its exterior. A similar sheath can be purchased online for less than $20. According to Moscow Police Department officer Brett Payne, he's a rookie who joined the force in 2020. The sheath was found on a single bed next to the stabbed corpse of Maddie Mogen and Kaylee Gonsalves. So that's where it was found, next to Maddie and Kaylee on the 3rd floor. And he says, I noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side. That is when you're viewing it from the door of the bedroom. So when you walk into the bedroom, to the right side is where he is describing this. To the right side of Maddie Mogen. The sheath was later processed and had K-bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and Anchor insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA, which is the profile, which is the suspect profile, Bryan, you know who, Bryan Kohberger, which was left on the button snap. You can see the button snap of the knife sheath. That is what Brett Payne, the 2-year officer, again, one of the concerns about Brett Payne was, man, this guy's only been a lead investigator or an investigator for 2 years. A lot of people were like, do you have your best guys on this? We want the best of the best on this. Well, come to find out, it sounds like he was doing a great job. And so the DNA sample was sent for lab processing and then onto the FBI's genetic genealogy branch. Through extensive research of public DNA databases, a match led to Kohberger's home. Police had already zeroed in on Kohberger by linking his white Hyundai Elantra to the scene. And so on December 27th, an undercover team of police seized trash from Kohberger's family's home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, which I find to be a very interesting way. Like, what part? What did they find? Did they have a drink that was left behind? Did they maybe have something that led to, hey, this is I don't know, like, this is pretty interesting. But a DNA sample from the trash returned a 99.98% match with the sample on the knife sheath. That would definitely say, Bryan, you are the perp here, buddy. You're going to have some serious explaining to do if you think that's going away. So cops, they obtained a sample of his DNA on December 27th when they stole trash from the family's house in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. And so the sample, it returned a 99.98% match with the sample found at the scene to Kohberger's father. Dylan Mortensen, she was awake at the time of the killings around 4:20 in the morning, and that she saw a man in a black mask. That's what she would tell the police. And so I'm not going to get too deep into that because I shared this morning on that, right? So I'm not going to get too crazy deep on that, but I've been sharing it today for everyone to follow the best that I can. But truth is, I am going to just say it again. She has nothing to do with this. Let's make sure that we understand that and make that very, very clear. I don't think she has anything to do with this at all. And so what we don't know is still the motive. We don't know the motive, and honestly, we may never find the motive. What do you think? We can speculate, but that's about all we can do, right? And so, but they do have some serious evidence against him, including Dylan's, who's probably going to see him in the mask and say, yep, that looks like him. Because she saw a man in a black mask in the house. And she told police she'd been at home and awoke to the sound of Kaylee Gonsalves playing with her dog upstairs on the 3rd floor of the house. That's what she thought was going on. She then heard cries and what she thought was Gonsalves saying, "There's someone here." Next, Mortensen says she heard a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She opened her bedroom door, then saw a man in a black ski mask that covered his nose and mouth walking towards her. According to the affidavit, she opened it up one time, didn't see anyone. Then she was still a little like, what the heck? Opens it up a second time, and that's when she sees him walking towards her. She freezes. That's what she tells police. She freezes. She watched him leave through a sliding door. Then she locked herself in her bedroom. It's unclear why she did not immediately call the cops. Unclear. Police, they did not attend the scene until the following afternoon, almost noon. 11:58, I believe, is when the 911 call came in. A few minutes later, they were there. But a shoe print that was found literally found right there in the crime scene, which would match her account. So they had these prints just like Van shoes. They say that it is Van shoes. A shoe print, this is what it looks like, was found in the mud outside of the murder house. I mean, you're talking about, wow. So they're going to match the size of this shoe as well, right? They're literally going to match the size, the size and all. Police studied that shoe print and found a diamond pattern, which is consistent with the sole of a Vans shoe. It's unclear if Kohberger even owns any Vans. The affidavit doesn't even share that part of the discovery of any shoe, but it says there is a sole print similar to the one found at the scene. So that it looks like this diamond shaped. At 4:17 a.m., a surveillance camera from a nearby house picked up faint sounds of cries and a dog barking. I don't know, that might be Enon's account as well. I think he's the one that might have had something. I'm not 100% sure on that. They found a lot of stuff. We just weren't in the know. And we do know that, there was a dog that was found. Little Murphy was found there. And so they heard faint sounds of cries and a dog barking, and Little Murphy was unharmed. The dog is the animal Kaylee Gonsalves shared with her ex-boyfriend, Jack. The dog was found unharmed in an empty bedroom in the house when police arrived the next day. And according to the affidavit, at approximately 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of 1122 King Road, very close to it, picked up the distorted audio of what sounded like voices of a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The security camera is less than 50 feet from the west wall of Kanoodle's bedroom. So maybe they heard her screaming. This is so tragic in so many ways. Please pray for these kids that they get the peace and justice that they deserve. Please pray for the families that they can get closure, even though we're nowhere near that at this time. But a white Hyundai Elantra was observed on surveillance cameras in the vicinity of the crime around the relevant time frame, but the absence of a front license plate made it harder for police to track down its owner. In the state of Pennsylvania, you do not need a license plate in the front. But the clue came from a cop in the University of Washington's campus force. He had been on the lookout for any vehicles that matched the description by Moscow police. And so we know about the gas station attendant sharing this information. We literally have heard that multiple times. We're just glad we can start seeing a little bit of peace for these kids, for the family. I mean, the family, they're relieved that they at least have a suspect, right? That, to me, is a big deal in itself. Personally, that's my thought. I'm glad they got someone. Here is the white car that was seen speeding by. Multiple cameras saw this thing lurking around. And so on November 29, police obtained surveillance footage from the parking lot of Kohberger's apartment building some 10 miles from the murder scene in Pullman, Washington state. Moscow police officers visited the parking lot to obtain a license plate for the vehicle. They ran a search and found multiple incidents in which the car and its owner, Bryan Kohberger, had been pulled over multiple times in the past. So with Kohberger's name, police zoned in on him and reviewed historic surveillance camera footage along with phone records going back several months. And so they study his phone records and surveillance camera footage from Pullman, Washington, where he lived, and Moscow, Idaho, the murder scene, revealed that he visited the area 12 times. I just reported on that, so I'm not going to dive deep into that one as well. But I will share with you this. I should have done this earlier, but I'm just trying to get these pieces up there. I did share this on the actual thing, but on this morning when I did the whole affidavit, but you can see a police depiction of the route they believe Kohberger took on the night of the murders that was included in the case files. Those documents, they're made public and we can finally start looking at it. But, truth is, we're just getting started. We're just getting started, right? My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. This is not about me. This is about the victims and getting justice for these victims. We're just a community following closely to what went on and this most heinous crime that many of us could ever had dreamed of, right? So at the end of the day, this is not about me. This is not about you. This is about justice for Idaho 4, right? So please, if you're a person of prayer, please pray that they get justice and we get closure for these kids and their family. One of the most heinous things I've ever heard of, even though I followed a lot of true crime and obviously a lot of serial, they've done just as bad probably and some even worse. But to tragically take 4 young lives. And this guy, he was 28. He still had a lot of life to live. He could have been a good contributor in some ways because he was learning so much. And we even find out that he tried to apply for an internship at the police department. We'll talk about that another day. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Deep True Crime. I look forward to serving you guys and being a voice for the victims again. Have a great day, my friends. Peace.